everybody. Today we're covering part 2 in my series all about writing dialogue. In part 1, we talked about characterization and voice. If you missed it, I got it linked below. Today we're looking at the technical aspect, formatting, punctuation, paragraphs, all that good stuff. Before we get started, a huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video and making it possible for me to release regular content for you guys. Skillshare is my favorite online learning platform because it's specifically designed for creators. It's got over 25,000 classes in creative writing, business, graphic design, drawing, whatever you can think of. I've got 2 marketing classes for writers over on Skillshare. One is all about building an author platform. The other is a guide to launching your novel. If you haven't already, you should definitely check them out. Not only do I have classes on Skillshare, but I take classes. I'm a big fan of their platform. I use them religiously, and their classes have helped me so much when it comes to building my author platform and writing career. Skillshare's got some special goodies just for you. Stick around until the end of this video for details. First, we're covering the top 10 tips for tackling the technical end of dialogue. If you have any issues with formatting or punctuation, this video's for you. Number 1, write the dialogue first. One of the issues writers have with writing long streams of dialogue is that they lose the flow of the conversation. They get sidetracked, sometimes they neglect the characters' voices, or the voices start to blend together. This often happens because the writer is flip-flopping between writing dialogue and narrative. They're going back and forth between 2 very different styles of writing. The easiest way to bypass this problem is to write the dialogue out in full without any narrative at all. No dialogue tag, no body language, no gestures, no description, just the voices. This will allow you to focus on the conversation without getting distracted by influences outside of the voices themselves. Additionally, this method mirrors the natural flow of conversation. When we're talking, we're not pausing to proclaim who is speaking or to remark on whether or not our brow was furrowed. Once you've written the conversation out in full, read it over, give it an edit, then add the narrative. Number 2, color code the voices. Another dialogue hack, especially if you're writing a conversation between many characters, is to color code the voices. One character's dialogue is green, another character's dialogue is blue, the third character's dialogue is red. This is helpful because it eliminates the confusion of figuring out who is speaking at which time. Plus, it'll showcase if one character is monopolizing the conversation or if another character is being left out. If the green character only has one line, maybe you don't need them in this conversation at all. Once you finish the conversation and you're happy with it, nix the color coding and move on. Number 3, caps lock is not emphasis. Internet speak has really fucked up our knowledge of the written language. When we're chatting with friends online, we tend to use caps lock to indicate emphasis. He did what? But in fiction, caps lock doesn't indicate emphasis. It lets the reader know that someone is screaming. He did what? Before you feel the need to lay down on the shift key, ask yourself, is this character horrified right now? Caps lock is usually reserved for moments of terror because that's typically when people scream. If your character isn't wailing like a banshee and you just want to emphasize what they're saying, what you're looking for is italics. He did what? You're welcome. Number 4, the dialogue tag is part of the sentence. A lot of people get confused when writing dialogue tags, namely when it comes to punctuation. Newbie writers often treat dialogue tags as their own sentence. They will have a line of dialogue ending in a period, followed by the tag he said, also ending in a period. That ain't right. If you're adding a dialogue tag to the end of a line of dialogue, then it is part of the sentence, which means the punctuation needs to reflect that. Since we're covering punctuation, let's switch over to my laptop for details. All right, as you can see, we have 3 lines of dialogue here along with 3 dialogue tags. All we're missing is the punctuation. Let's start with the most basic situation. If your character is simply stating a line of dialogue and you end that sentence with a tag, the proper punctuation at the end of their dialogue is a comma. If a character is yelling or exclaiming something, you can add an exclamation point at the end of their dialogue. However, do not capitalize the first letter of the dialogue tag because it is still part of the sentence.
Lastly, say your character is asking a question. In this case, just like with the previous example, we add a question mark at the end of the line of dialogue. And the first letter of the dialogue tag remains lowercase in order to reflect the fact that it is connected to the sentence.
Number 5, narrative is its own sentence. Sometimes when we write dialogue, we don't use dialogue tags, which in most cases is actually preferred. Instead, we cushion the dialogue with narrative. The character takes some kind of action or exhibits some kind of body language that makes it clear that they're the ones speaking. In situations like this, sometimes writers treat this with the same type of punctuation as you would use with a dialogue tag. Jenna clenched her fists. Punctuation is important, damn it. This is wrong. A line of narrative that happens before or after a line of dialogue and does not include a dialogue tag is its own sentence, and the punctuation should reflect that. Jenna clenched her fists. Punctuation is important, damn it. The only exception to this is if the narrative somehow punctuates a line of dialogue. Number 6, don't reflect an accent in the dialogue. Sometimes when a character has an accent, the author will reflect this accent in the dialogue by misspelling some of the words in order to mirror the pronunciation. However, this sucks, so don't do it. I know you want readers to hear exactly how sexy this character's accent sounds, but all you did was give them a tongue twister. And I know you want readers to hear just how goofy this character's voice is, but that's actually pretty offensive, so maybe don't be a dick. When you reflect the accent in the dialogue, the reader is stuck sounding out those words at a glacial pace, which is fucking annoying. Keep in mind, this does not apply to broken English. If a character drops certain words when they speak, then you would do the same in the dialogue, because duh, they're not speaking those words. But when it comes to accents, describe how it sounds in the narrative, and then write the dialogue out normally. Your readers will thank you. Number 7, people speak in paragraphs. Sometimes your characters will speak at length. Maybe they're telling a story or giving a speech. This is completely normal in relevant occasions, but please keep in mind that people speak in paragraphs. Your character's story should not be one massive paragraph that lasts for pages and pages. And dividing up paragraphs is simple. When the subject changes, the paragraph changes. But Jenna, the subject never changes. He's telling a story. Except subjects change within stories all the time. Take Goldilocks and the Three Bears. When Goldilocks decides to try out the porridge, that's its own paragraph. When she goes to try out the beds, guess what? We change paragraphs because that's a new subject. Number 8, quotation marks are weird. If your character is telling a long story, the kind that is reflected in multiple paragraphs, like I just covered, then you're going to use quotation marks differently than you normally would. Say your character's dialogue is 3 paragraphs long and it is uninterrupted by any dialogue tags or narrative. You are going to start every single paragraph in this stream of dialogue with an open quotations mark. However, only the very last paragraph is going to end with a closing quotation mark. So it should look a little something like this. But Jenna, that looks so wrong. I know it looks wrong, but it's so right. Number 9, thoughts are not dialogue. Sometimes your characters are gonna think about shit, and when they do, you may be tempted to reflect their thoughts the same way you would as dialogue, with quotation marks. Don't do that. You'll reveal yourself as an amateur and open yourself up to a lot of hate. Thoughts are not spoken words, and thus they do not get treated as such. Instead, italicize your character's thoughts. That way the reader knows that the voice sounding off is in your character's head and not coming out of their mouth. And number 10, read it out loud. One of the best tips for writing dialogue is to read it out loud, and this is true for a number of reasons. First, you'll be able to hear whether or not it's convincing. If you read your dialogue out loud and it doesn't sound like something real people would really say, delete it. Second, you can track the flow. Does the conversation progress organically, or is it clunky? Does it go off on tangents? And third, you get a much better idea of pacing. If your conversation is supposed to be firing off, but it's reading very slowly, that's a problem. Maybe the dialogue itself is too long, or maybe you've added too many tags or too much narrative. All of this is so much easier to determine if you read it out loud to yourself or to a willing party. So that's all I got for you today. My next dialogue video will be all about dialogue tags, so be on the lookout. Again, thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. I am so appreciative of everything that they've done for me, as well as so many other creators throughout the world. If you're interested in learning more about writing or the publishing industry, Skillshare is an obvious resource, plus it's crazy cheap. An annual subscription is less than 10 bucks a month. However, you can get your first 2 months of Skillshare for free by clicking the activation link below. Only the first 500 people who click the link are gonna get in on the offer, so move quickly. You're gonna get access to over 25,000 classes for $0. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post new videos on Wednesdays, and if you want to be alerted as soon as I upload, ring that bell. The Savior's Champion is available in ebook, paperback, hardback, signed hardback, and audiobook. I have all of the information listed below. Check it out and join Tobias on his amazing adventure. And be sure to follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook, and of course you can tweet me at Jenna Moreci. Bye!
Hey, everyone, I'm Flynn. I fucking love myself. So if you love me, and you don't mind a bit of Jenna, then why don't you press the fucking subscribe button? You know you want to, because then you get to hear more of me. Anyways, press that button, ding the bell, and we'll have a great fucking time.